Hello fellow RPG makers and welcome to another video. In this video I will talk more in detail about the basic types of videos in MV, but before I talk about that, let's take a look at the problem we had in the previous video, which was that the materials did not load properly, so they did not display properly. If we open the script, we can see it has increased in size, but we will get to that later. For now, let's take a look at the scene_custom menu.prototype.create function, which has these two lines, image manager.reserve face and reserve character. This is very important because if we take a look at the rpg_managers.js, more importantly, if we search for scene manager.update scene, we can see that if the scene has not started yet and it is ready, it should start. But it is only ready when the image manager is ready, and the image manager is ready only when it has nothing to load. So the code that reserves the face and the character makes it load. So the scene won't launch until these two are loaded, which means that as long as we refresh the windows afterwards, there is no problem. So let's now launch the game, go into our menu scene, and as you can see, we have drawn the images with no issue. So now let's talk more about the windows. So the window that's currently displayed is a window-based prototype, and as such, in terms of controls, we can't really do anything. Pressing arrows won't do anything, neither will enter, and the escape only works because I have a command that will close the scene when I press escape inside the scene's update function. But of course we can draw stuff on this window, and the advantage of it is that it doesn't have a limited size, so if I want, I can make it as large as the screen or as small as a 100 by 100 rectangle. So it is pretty much useful as an information window or maybe some sort of poster, etc. But we will talk about drawing in future episodes. For now, let's take a look at the basic window types. For example, scene manager.scene._custom selectable window. In other words, it's a prototype of window selectable. So let's show it. And as you can see, it already has a white rectangle that has selected the first option, because if we take a look at the code, we can see this line that tells it to select the first option when it's created. If this wasn't here, this would be the same as everything else. Nevertheless, the rectangle is not blinking, which means the window is not active. So let's fix it by calling the activate method. Now it's blinking, and now pressing up and down arrows will work, and pressing enter will also work. But even though nothing has seemingly happened, something indeed has happened. If we open the debug, we can see that variable 1 it now has a value 1, because if we take a look at the code, we can see that it has a handler, an OK handler in particular, bound to this function, which, if we take a look, increases the variable 1 by 1. Now, it is important to say that you need to create handler for this window because it has no handlers by default, and you can pretty much only create handlers based on your buttons. So for example, here we have OK or cancel. I can of course define other handlers based on the buttons inside the input dot key, how is this called, key mapper. Yes, I can do these handlers as well, but I won't do them because there's no need to. So let's jump back, and as you can see, there is a this.command1.bind behind it, because I am not calling it from the window itself, but I am calling it from the current scene. I am calling it from the current scene because I have multiple windows here, and you're probably gonna have multiple windows too in your scenes. So manipulating the windows individually, like for example if I wanted to call some method here from this window, would be really weird because there's no implicit connection between these two windows, so I would have to do it through the scene itself, so why don't do it now? For that reason it is important to use the bind, because if you don't use the bind, the handler won't know what the this means, and as such we will lose the context. So in order to keep the context, we will use the bind. For this very reason, there is also a function to get out of the scene. It is called this.popScene, because if we were to use the scene manager.pop like we used in the previous video, we would have to bind it to the scene manager. So in order to be able to pop it to bind it to the scene, there is a custom method which will call the scene manager's one. Now if we take a look at the window once again, let's show it and activate it, we can see that the size is still pretty controllable, but of course if I resize it now, I have to remember that the canvas does not refresh, so I would have to refresh it manually, or else if I was to resize the window, I would not be able to draw. For example, if I resize the window from here to the full screen, I won't be able to use the rest of the window until I refresh the canvas or resize the canvas. That is not a problem of the other windows. For example, if we deactivate it and hide it and open the command window, .show, and activate, we can see that compared to the selectable window, the line size is fixed, and by default it will have as many lines as you have commands. And there is also a second difference. As you can see, these four handlers are not any keys. They are command 1, command 2, command 3, command 4. And the reason for that is because the window has another handler that says that when I press OK, it will, depending on the index, activate a command. It is somewhere here. We have find symbol, select symbol, etc. So of course I can select this, and there is also an important thing to remember, that if you select one line successfully, by default the window will deactivate. That is why I have the activate line inside. Depending on which kind of a window it is, it will activate if it's active, visible. So the main differences between the command window and the selectable window is, as you can see, a fixed line height. And of course that's not all. If we take a look at the code, we can see that the handlers don't have any key bindings or anything like that, but these are command 1 to command 4, and that's simply because the command window has a handler that if you press OK, it will call a command depending on the window index. And in case you're wondering what this false is supposed to mean, that is just my mistake. I wanted to disable the last two commands, but I forgot that if you want to add commands, then if you want to disable them, you need to place the false or your whatever condition inside the add command and not inside the handler. The handler is there just to tell what is supposed to happen when the command is selected, but whether the command is actually selectable or not, that is handled inside the window command itself. So if we compare or close it now and reopen it to demonstrate, we now have the window horizontal command left. So let's show it. Dot underscore custom horizontal command window dot show. As you can see, these two commands are white, so they are enabled, and these two are disabled. So of course, if I add a variable, I now have the variable value of 1 after the reset, and I can click and nothing will really happen. And of course, there is not too much to say about the differences between the horizontal command window and the normal command window, because the fact that the horizontal window is horizontal is pretty much the only difference. And of course, these properties every window has can be changed as you wish. In fact, if we take a look at the core scripts, RPG Windows, you can search for window horizontal command, and if we can see here that there are number visible rows which returns 1 and calls which returns 4, and that's exactly what is here, 1 row and 4 columns. If you want 4 by 2, you'll do max calls 4 and non-visible rows 2. Or if you want to increase, for example, the item height of the window command, window command, we can see, for example, that the window height is this fitting height, number visible rows. In other words, fitting height is the line height with some padding. So if you want to increase that, you definitely can, and then you can increase the item height too, etc. You can pretty much customize these windows however you want, but we'll talk about customization in a future episode. For now, I think I'll end it here, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!